Hey, this is Steve with Dabble Lab, and this is another episode of Dabble with Experts. And our expert today is Vineet Sinha, the head of strategic innovation at Salesforce. And what you might not know is that Salesforce is building some tools for voice developers, and one of those is a voice development framework called Violet. And Violet is it's a really cool and interesting framework. It lets developers build voice apps using an HTML-like or HTML-inspired language. And Vineet is going to tell us what Violet's all about today and show us how to get started using it. So let's jump in.
Yeah. So the good way to start with Violet is to go to our homepage. We've got a few different examples to show how to build stuff. All that conversational logic that I was talking about, we call it conversational flow language. So you can easily add it with one line here. I'll walk in more details, but this is an example of responding to the user. If the user says, "What's next in my to-do?" it will say, "The next item is so-and-so." If you want to get input from a user, saying like, "Remind me to pick up the milk," then this will capture it. To-do item is an input. You define what type the input is, and you'll get a response back from the user saying, add it to your list. Similarly, I've put the actual file in a separate document. In this case, it's highlighting a little better. You can, as I was saying, you can have a decision to be made. So if you say, "Remind me to do so and so," remind me to pick up the milk. If the system has two categories, shopping list and tasks, then it'll ask me which category. If the user says category 1 or category 2, then it'll appropriately do things. So just a very quick sort of examples of stuff on the homepage. But if you're trying to sort of get started, click here. I'm walking you through it. So I'm actually going to build a simple voice app that just does this in the next few seconds. Okay. So I've got my console open. Can you see this is large enough, or should I make it?
Yeah. No, this is great.
Okay, so let me create a simple project. Let's call it Hello World. This is a Node app, so I should create, just do an npm init. It's asking me a whole bunch of questions. I'll for now just say yes to all of them. And so it's created the basic files for it. I will, now that I've started that, I've set it up, I can install Violet. Tell it to save the dependency. And as it's downloading this from the server, I can create, sorry?
No, I was going to say, so my first impression is it looks like a templating system. Is that a big part of it?
It is. It is on one side a templating system, on the other side helps you keep your logic separate from the templating system. Right. So the first example puts it all together, but then I'll show you another example where it goes beyond that.
Great.
Okay. So I'm going to create this first file. Very much, just sort of initialize Violet, and here I'll just put in the sample pieces of code. Right. What's next on my to-do? It'll get it from this to-do service, and then it says the next item is so-and-so. In fact, for the demo right now, I'm going to say next item on your list is
and of course, we don't have to use VI when we're doing this.
Sorry?
No, I was just making a joke. We don't have to use VI when we're doing this.
Oh, yeah, right, of course. I'm haven't set up I usually use Atom. I haven't.
Oh, okay. I just kidding with you. My VI skills are rusty.
Yeah, right. I used to do a lot of coding with BI back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't don't use it much anymore, except for maybe Git comments.
Yeah, interesting. So what you'll see here is that I created that very simple script. It's registered with the Alexa platform and the Google platform. Violet has this concept of platforms, and theoretically you can have a platform with any API out there, because with Violet we're trying to focus on that higher level logic. Now that it's sort of, I've had that few lines of code, if I want to run it, I just click here and it launches this. This is based on the Alexa app stuff, and I can just say, this is the tooling that is inspired very much by the Alexa app framework, and it allows you to just pick whatever you want to say. For example, launch, send the request, and it says, yes, I'm here. Just basic stuff which we can customize if you want, or what's next on my to-do. And as I'd hard-coded, it says next item on your list is get the milk. So very basic stuff, very quickly. In a minute, I got it working. Now, at this point, if I want, I can deploy it to Amazon Alexa or Google Dialogflow, right? Just click here. It takes you through the different steps. You create an account, create a skill there, declare the model, and this is again pulling in all the data that you've already provided, essentially, and then it's guiding you step by step as to what to do so that you can test it.
Got it.
Yeah. And same thing with not just Alexa, with Google as well. Good question.
Got it. No, yeah. So it's generating a different interaction model. So it's generating the Alexa interaction model,
right?
And I'm guessing a different one for Dialogflow. So it's
whatever Dialogflow needs.
Yeah, that's very cool. So yeah, how big a lift would it be to to set it up for another platform?
It's actually not very hard. I have this concept called a platform plugin. You just define what the different APIs is. It's not very hard, assuming that the API is not very different. If it's like a request response thing, like how Alexa and Google do it, most of the different platforms are very similar. It should be actually fairly easy.
So as long as you are getting I would assume maybe like a JSON response to a JSON request from an API endpoint, you could probably make that work.
Yeah, there's a couple of basic things that an average skill needs. That Violet depends on more, just because I've seen it happen. It is, if the user says something, you need to be able to respond to it. Whether the response is what I call a say or an ask. Are you waiting for? Are you just telling the user something and ending the conversation, or are you telling the user something and keeping the conversation open? Right. Thirdly, ideally, the system supports SSML, makes things easier, but that's not essential. You'll just lose some of those benefits that Violet has with regards to SSML. What else? I think that's basically it.
Yes, I think that sums up the, ask, listen, and SSML, right?
Yeah, launch requests, again, it doesn't need it, but if the system doesn't have a launch request, then launch concept, then you just won't be able to use Violet's primitives that take advantage of it.
Got it. Yeah, that piece of it alone makes it very, very interesting, where you could, it's almost like what I guess Yeoman, if you're familiar with the Yeoman project, where you can sort of set up templates to generate code for whatever you want. But in this case here, the idea of being able to generate the interaction model for whatever platform is really, really nice, because I think the way that most people go at it now is with some sort of pass through, where you would choose a common, the one NLU that you are going to use. And then for all of the other channels, you're basically just going to create an interaction model that's a pass through to that NLU. And while that works, and there's definitely some, arguments that make sense for it, like you want to have one NLU so that you've got consistency across all of the different channels or platforms that you're using. The argument against it is, if there was ever a point where any one of those channel providers decided to not let you pass everything through, that could be very problematic. And what I like about the way that Violet's going at it is you're really generating the interaction model for each one of those platforms.
Right.
From sort of a common development environment where you don't have to think about, oh, how do I do this for Alexa? And, that's a little bit different than Google. And that's a little bit different than, insert platform C.
Right. And it's actually, so one of the big insights that I got from the web world is how does collaboration happen in a big app, right? And what happens is that HTML becomes the skeleton of the app, right? Designers essentially learn a little bit of HTML and they know how to put stuff in, and this, therefore put CSS styling. And the programmers, yes, they're different people, and internationalization people, they're different people, but they all know the basic elements in HTML, right? So what is that kind of a structure in a voice world, right? And that's basically what inspired the creation of the conversational flow language. And once that exists, right, you can have designers working really closely with developers, or developers playing different roles, but like you can have them working closely, keep these things separate, how to hook them in, and you can get moving fast. That becomes your source of truth. And then, yes, you can generate something for Alexa, for Google, and for, like, as you were saying, like Twilio or whichever platform. Or like, in fact, we've got something working inside a web browser, right? Like, you've got that source of truth, what it's supposed to work, and you take it from there.
Do you see any, I love the way that you just put that, the analogy with HTML, because one of the challenges right now for sure is that there really isn't the equivalent of HTML in voice development, right? It's each one of the platforms sort of defines how it's going to be done based on whatever they think is the right way to do it. And it would sort of be, in my mind, analogous to years ago, the different browser, if each one of those different browsers companies defined their own HTML, and I guess they did early on. And now that I think about it, there was, there was some tags that were browser specific, but more generally, if there wasn't an HTML per se, but a way that you would write web code for back then Netscape Navigator, and it was different if you used Internet Explorer or Mosaic or whatever the browser of choice was. Right. And we kind of have that in a way with voice stuff, don't we? I mean, there really isn't a standard for how this stuff should be done. Are you aware of any that are in the works? Like, is there a standards board committee? Because I'm not, I don't know of one. Do you see that maybe being something that should or could, or you'd like to make happen in the future?
Well, I'd love if there was there, and I'd love to contribute anything about it towards that initiative, right? I think that I think the thing that does make a lot of this special is that conversational flow language, and I've sort of I'm not attached to only Violet supporting it, for example. Do I know of any other attempts? Well, way back when there was VoiceXML,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Again, I've looked at it. Sorry.
I wonder. I wonder if that. I wonder if there is maybe a new future for Voice XML. I was thinking about that. I dabbled with it years and years and years ago for a it was a voice. It was a phone system project that was working on, and yeah, I don't know that there's been a whole lot of activity. I haven't even looked at it in quite some time, so there might be, but maybe.
So I looked at Voice XML, and theoretically, I could have. I really wanted to align with existing things that's out there. I found it to be a little bit too laborious for people to create it. Honestly, I think that the conversational flow language is better. I don't think it's perfect yet. And I'm constantly asking, how do we keep it concise, but, fairly easy to author, right? I've looked at people in my team that have created stuff with Violet, and, as they do those usability tests, like asking myself, like, why aren't they figuring that little thing out, right?
I would love to see a standards committee come together, or some collaboration from the bigger players and from all players in the space, because as I talk to different experts that are focused on this and look at different platforms, it's tough to say that's the one to go to, because there's something good in all of them. And it would be really, really nice to be able to say, learn HTML, because HTML is, what you need to know for this. But you can't really do that with voice. You can't say, put all of your eggs into learning, how the Amazon, the Alexa Skills Kit SDK works, because it's great, unless you also want to tie into another channel, and then that's not the right option. If all you want to do is an Alexa skill, that might be the right route. But there are all of these kind of the decisions that force developers to learn lots of different frameworks, and there isn't that like you described, that starting point, or that source of truth, that start with HTML and then CSS, and then
So I will tell you that I have personally tried to initiate conversations with you name it, Amazon, Google, Mozilla guys, and when there's enough interest, we'll make something happen. With Violet, I think till then, if you have to just build for Amazon, like, yes, Amazon's APIs will likely be a better option. But if you want to build for more than one platform, honestly, the closest that exists, I think, is Violet. And if you see anything that is better, let me know. And my goal is to just keep improving Violet, like with any good ideas that I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, I think Violet is great. I like I said, I have an opportunity to see lots of different frameworks and stuff, and there's something in all of them that's good, that you kind of selfishly, I would love to see all of those good ideas come together, and the minds behind them come together. I mean, there are things that I really like about how Jovo's going at it, on what Twilio is doing with channels, although theirs is more platform than tool. I think there's some really interesting things and ideas of how they're approaching it. Like they have with autopilot development this concept of style sheets for voice, which is very unique. And the idea behind it is you could have a voice app and want to change sort of the personality of the assistant. So you might want to have a different voice or something like that, which shouldn't change the entire app. It's more style on top of it.
Right.
And there's all of these really good ideas out there and implementations in many cases, and smart people thinking about it. It just seems like pulling that all together would be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I did talk to the Jovo guys as well as some of the people that use Jovo. Hopefully I have got a lot of their good ideas, a lot of those good ideas. Jovo's strength is I think it's a really good lower level framework. I'm not saying don't use it. In fact, there have been times that I've considered switching the underlying platforms to take advantage of, so just like it has an Alexa platform, a Google platform, and having a Jovo platform. If I see enough excitement for it, I'll make that happen at some point.
I mean, that's the biggest challenge, right? Is just right now you can't really pick one. I think that is the underlying challenge, or at least in my opinion, there are times when I would go to Jovo. There are times when I would go straight and use the Ask SDK, like the Alexa Skills Kit. Times when do it straight up in Twilio or maybe even Lex. And that is that's the challenge. I think right now is that you've got to have a deep understanding of all of these different tools out there at this stage in the game, which doesn't seem like the best, in my opinion, doesn't seem like the best way to go at it. I mean,
well, so I think it depends also on who you are, right? Is there a benefit to figure out the native APIs on the iPhone versus an Android device? Yes. Does the average enterprise company need to do it? I think no, right?
mm-hmm.
Would I suggest if you're building if you're building a native app, if you're building an app for running on a mobile device, I think the easiest bet is to use something like Ionic.
Yeah.
That will run easily on any of them. But if you want to go one step better, I would suggest something like React Native or Native Script, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allows you to take advantage of the native APIs. I think.
I was going to say, do you see the tool sets for voice kind of moving in a parallel way where you'll at some point in the near future we'll go, okay, just like you did, like use Ionic if you're doing this kind of mobile app, you need cross-platform, but if you need hardware access to the APIs, the local APIs, then you might want to look at React Native. But if you need this, then you might want to look at Java Developer Studio or Swift.
Yes, I think that there's always going to be competition. People are going to try different ideas. They're going to try to see how to make it easier.
Yeah.
I think that React Native, I think today is possible, I believe there's common sets of components that you can use. So yes, it's native APIs, but there's common sets of components. As long as you use that, it'll work on both Android and iOS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's differences in what each of those platforms support that you've got to consider when you're writing the code in React Native.
Right.
But I think that would be true with Violet, if I'm not guessing. Like there's going to be things that you still need to understand the platform that you're developing for, because there's platform specific differences that need to be considered.
Yes, absolutely. So my vision with Violet is to do that, right? Is to make this basic set of primitives be fairly well, clearly defined so that you can get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of getting things working on these different devices, right? And I totally believe you will want to do crazy things. I have needed to do crazy things. I guess my PhD is in the area of doing crazy user experience stuff with AI. So like I do always want to do crazy things. I always do it. And I want to make sure that Violet makes it easy to do it.
So maybe Violet is to voice development what React Native is to mobile development.
Sure, yeah. Or closer to maybe native script. There
Okay.
are a little bit differences in philosophy. But yeah.
I love analogies. They help me understand sort of where it fits. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So where do we go next? What do you, we see like, really appreciative of you sharing your time and showing us, telling us about your vision for Violet and showing us how to get started with a really simple hello world. What will we look forward to next time? I think we're going to go a little deeper, right?
Yeah. So, absolutely. But before that, let me, as homework, I want to suggest looking at this basic calculator that is there.
Okay.
So you've seen the hello world. Actually, let me
Mhm.
share my screen again. Screen share button. Oh, there it is. So you see that basic thing. I want you to look at these examples, and in particular, this basic calculator.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm saying this, it's a little bit more complicated than the hello world that we put up right now, but it's a calculator and it's not too complicated.
Got it.
Again, we can walk through it. We will walk through this in a more cohesive example next time.
Okay.
I think this is a fun thing to look at and to ask questions, I guess, about in your mind, and we can talk more next time about it.
Okay. Yeah, I will. I will definitely do that. I'll take a look at the calculator. Excuse me. Take a look at the calculator before we talk next time, and then from there we can dive deeper and explore and dabble with the all of the Violet possibilities.
Yeah, and very specifically, what I think will be a really good fit is next time. One of the things that I've been wanting to do at home a lot in the kitchen is we make a meal plan of what we're cooking when, and I want to access that through voice.
Okay.
It is one of the most annoying things that I have to do is like log into this website or this mobile app, and as opposed to me just asking my I have an Alexa in my kitchen, asking Alexa, what are we making for dinner tonight? Or where are we going for dinner tonight? Like just my breakfast, lunch, dinner, something that they can easily change, move around, figure that out.
I love it. So it's an Alexa meal planner. Is that that's it? Perfect. And do you have like an Echo Show? Is that going to include visuals, or is it going to be voice only?
I would love it to have visuals, but I think a good first step is to not worry about visuals and
All
to
right.
make the voice only part working. Just because in my experience, I have wanted to, it's me and my wife, we're going to go out for dinner tonight. I,
Nice.
want to be able to very quickly enter that information in. Like, oh yeah, we had planned
I
that.
love it. I love it. Yeah, that's a great idea. Or if you're whatever you're planning for the day, if you have a mood change, you can easily change it in the skill.
Yeah, change it and realize, oh, were planning on cooking XYZ, tonight. But if you're going out, can we move that to like dinner tomorrow? We'll make that.
I love it.
So I keep talking to my wife about what can make our life better. Want to know when something is going to go bad in the fridge, and just let Alexa keep track of those things.
I love it. Well, that's we'll look forward to building the ultimate meal planner with Violet next time. So again, I really appreciate you sharing your time, and we will look forward to getting together again and diving deeper.
Yeah, looking forward to it.